Welcome to another episode of the Best Friends Discuss podcast. Best Friends Discuss podcast. I did it better.
You're out of sync there, buddy.
Yeah, my mind's moving too fast because what did we just do, Brad?
We went and saw A Quiet Place, Part 2.
Part 2. Dosarino. It's been a while since we've done a movie review. For a lot of reasons. Joker ruined it for us.
We should do a lot more this year, though, because we already put out one stating all the movies we want to see.
Yep.
And this was one of the top ones we wanted to see.
Yeah. This was very high on both of our lists. And before we get into it, so my favorite movie of the year so far is Nobody. Yours was Nobody, but it got overtaken by
Wrath of Man.
Wrath of Man. Let me ask you this before we get into the review. Has this movie taken that spot? I know. Hard-hitting question. I'm Mike, by the way. I will say it did not for me. I still like Nobody.
Yeah, I think Wrath of Man is still top for me right now.
So
Just barely, but it still is.
So let me ask you this then. Is Nobody above Quiet Place
No.
Part 2, or is Quiet Place Part 2 your second?
Quiet Place Part 2 is probably my second.
Okay. I really like Nobody, so I think it will stay that way for me. But okay, so Brad,
Mike.
we're obviously going to get into spoilers. We literally just got out of the movie theater, came to your place, set everything up to record a podcast on Quiet Place Part 2.
Yes.
We purposely did not discuss anything from the drive from the movie theater to your place because I really wanted to discuss it on the podcast. Like honestly, 5 minutes in, I was like, we're gonna record a podcast on this because we liked it. Well, I don't know what you think. But before we get into that, Brad, give us a synopsis of Quiet Place. We both watched it this past week as a refresher.
Yep.
To get ourselves pumped up for Part 2. Give us a synopsis of what happened in Part 1. Obviously, spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen it.
I mean, it is a few years old at this point.
It is.
The original.
Came out in 2017, I believe. 2018, 2017. One of those 2 years.
I think 18.
I think, yeah, something like that.
Yeah. I don't know. When was MoviePass active?
2017, 2018.
So I guess general synopsis of the first movie would be you're following a family where something has happened in the world where there are these new creatures that attack anything based off of sound.
Mm-hmm.
So it starts off at day 472, and it's them basically trying to live their life and do everything that they're doing. And it starts off them in town trying to grab stuff, and quickly escalates with the son making some noise and being killed right off the bat. Just leads into some serious drama right there. So you can just kind of see basically where the stakes are in this world. From there, it moves on to them living in their house and seeing how they have to live day by day, dealing with the fact of no noise, or at least keeping it down to a point, along with seeing how they deal with survival tactics. So you have the mom that does all basically that, like the housework and the chores and stuff for the most part, and teaching the kids.
Yep.
And the father is at this point kind of like the hunter-gatherer. So he's going out, he's going hunting, fishing. He's got a bunch of different traps set into the river, along with also trying to find some kind of survival enclave. So he's got a bottom like bunker area, or
The basement.
basement in his house. And he uses that for two functions. A is trying to find a signal of any other survivors out there. And then the other one is to try to help out his deaf daughter and get her basically hearing aid or ocular device working for her. It starts off with some different drama between the father and the daughter.
Yeah,
She thinks he blames her for the death of
the youngest.
the youngest. And I guess as an audience, you're kind of supposed to infer that too by the fact of him not taking her with him, even though she's the oldest, to go fishing. Instead, he takes the youngest son, or I guess, well, now the youngest.
Yeah.
And at along with the same time, the mother is pregnant with a newborn kid that's supposed to be born in about 3 weeks' time. So they go off to fish. While this happens, the daughter goes off to basically go to the grave of the youngest son. And the mother's doing laundry in that. And this is where you find out kind of the difference in noise variance, because while they're at the river, the son is freaking out because some noise gets made. But John Krasinski's character basically starts telling him that there's differences between large noise and small noises. But if there becomes a big enough noise, then even the large noises don't matter. So they go behind a waterfall. I know, dang dog. And he yells, which freaks out the kid. But then the kid also screams once he realizes he's not going to be able to get hurt. And then they start to go home. And about this time is where the mother,
Emily Blunt,
she starts to go into premature labor at this point.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And she goes downstairs to try to find, my guess is John Krasinski at this time.
No. She's going in early labor, and she went to go flip the switch to signify there was something wrong.
Well, yes, that too. But I feel like it was a little bit of both, honestly.
Oh, no.
But yeah, she goes down there, she flips a switch. On her way down, she steps on a nail.
Oh, God.
Which, that is probably my worst part in the movie, by the way, off the first one, which is the raising of the nail. Just getting caught on, the laundry. So it sets it up where you know that's going to be an issue.
Right.
But
it's a Chekhov's gun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she steps on the nail. She stops herself from screaming. She is probably the best character in this entire 2 movie sets that knows how to hold her emotions and screams and stuff best, I feel.
Yeah.
But she flips the switch, but she's made some noise while she was down there.
Yeah, she dropped a picture frame.
Yep.
And it smashed.
Yeah, when she stepped on the nail. So at this point, the creatures come to investigate the noise and basically kill whoever's there. And she has to kind of hide out at this time. And then John Krasinski's character comes over the ridge and he sees all the lights are red, which is the signal that that something is wrong.
Things are fucked.
So he instructs his son to go basically shoot off some fireworks so that...
Oh, wait, that's poop.
Yeah. So that...
Isn't it this?
I have no idea. I don't know sign language.
I think it's this. Anyway.
Okay. Anyways. So the boy's freaking out a bit, but he basically convinces his son that he needs to do this to save his mom. So he goes off to do that. John Krasinski goes run into the house. Fireworks go off, so the monsters kind of leave. At this point, she is going into full-blown labor. She's hiding upstairs in a bathtub, and she's starting to bleed while she's starting to give birth. But she hears the fireworks go out, and this is where you hear the second scream in the movie, basically. So this is one thing we really liked off the first movie. There's literally only 3 points of noise.
Yeah.
And that's the screams. I mean, besides whatever the monsters do or any environmental items.
We often talk about when we went and saw it in theater that it was so quiet you heard so much outside noise from we heard a police sirens.
Yeah.
Outside of the theater passing by. It was so quiet in the theater.
So this is the second Scream. So the first one is one of kind of joy, being able to actually make noise behind the waterfall. This one is of pure agony, of Emily Blunt's character as she's giving labor. But anyways, so John Krasinski comes in to get her. He thinks she's dead because all he sees is blood, and then a bloody handprint comes up like behind him on the shower door, and that's how he realizes she's alive. So he goes to take her into like their safe area that they've created, including like a box for the baby that has an oxygen tank and is soundproof, so that while it cries, it has a place that it can be there without making enough noise for the creatures.
Yeah, instead of using just a pillow.
So he starts carrying her out to that area. The daughter that's at the gravesite starts to notice the rockets going off in the air. So she starts hightailing it back to the house too. She gets back, and the boy has decided that he needs to hide because of some creatures that start to follow him underneath the tractor. So she gets back. She's in the middle of a field, and she sees the light. And this is the first point that you realize that her hearing aid actually affects the creatures. So when they come close enough contact, or close enough range, it starts to create
a frequency.
Yeah, it's kind of like a bad mic connection, honestly.
Yeah, like ours.
Yeah, no.
Oh, sorry. No, we're
professionals.
No. Another one.
And so the monster comes up behind her, which she can't hear because she's deaf. But you start to see him freaking out, and then he just runs away. She finds her brother, and then they go to hide on top of a silo. And at this point, the mother, once they're safe, tells John Krasinski's character he needs to go find her kids. So he goes out to go find them. They fall into the silo, like they fall through the door at the top, which creates way too much noise. The creatures come after those kids again. And once again, they're saved by the hearing aid once it goes off. And he's in close enough range inside the silo itself, and then he just busts through. So they jump out of the silo at about the time that John Krasinski's character makes it to the two kids.
Yeah.
But it's still too much noise around there. The creatures come back one last time. And it's sitting on the roof. So John Krasinski's character tells them to go to the car. Because they have an old beat-up truck just in the middle of the field. So they go run there. The daughter goes underneath. The son goes inside. And, God, what was it that made the noise? The son makes a noise somehow. Oh, that's right. The creature was actually going to attack John Krasinski's character.
Yeah, and
so he instead opens the door and yells, "Dad." That's actually what it is. Yes.
No.
He actually uses a word and he goes, "Dad."
No.
No, that's exactly what happens. He doesn't honk the horn, because that's what I thought too. And then when I rewatched it, no, he actually yells.
I thought because it wasn't like a moment of like he's about to get hit and goes, "Dad," because so the kids run to the car.
Because that's actually how the daughter gets. Yes, but that's how the daughter gets in, because he opened up the door to scream. Right.
But it's the creature's on the roof, and he goes to swing, and it hits him.
Yeah, it hits him.
That's when the kid goes, "Dad!"
But yeah, he yells. He opens up the door and he yells, and so the creature starts to come there. The daughter also jumps into the truck at this time. It jumps on the truck, and this is the third scream in the movie. Where John Krasinski, he's sitting back there, and he basically signs to the two kids, mainly his daughter at the time, that "I love you," and that he has always loved her. And then he screams out in the only way you could say a sacrifice. Like, he knows it's it's just a sacrifice for his kids.
So powerful. Such a powerful moment.
Yeah, which I'm just going to put this out there. Zack Snyder, learn from John Krasinski, you piece of shit.
Justice League 6 hour Snyder cut is garbage.
Or Army of the Dead, garbage. Dave Bautista fucking doesn't kill himself. Lets his kid do it for him. So he makes the final sacrifice, and he dies. The kids make it back to the house. They go, the creatures follow him one last time, and they go into the basement, and the daughter uses her hearing aid along with the speaker system he has down there for the radio, and makes enough noise that it severely hurts the creature. And the way they're kind of made, their like whole head opens up so that they can like hear.
Yeah, they have like armor plating.
And it opens up enough, Emily Blunt just destroys it. Just one shot kill, man. One shot kill.
Yeah, and then it cuts to the cameras, or the camera moves to the TV of the cameras surrounding the area, and you see two more skitter by. Oh, yeah, so cool.
And then she just lock and loads one last time.
Yeah. I will say the creatures, it honestly reminds me of just Demogorgons from Stranger Things.
Oh, absolutely.
But they're just knockoff Demogorgons.
Yeah,
like,
pretty much.
It was this movie, Stranger Things, and then like one or two more movies that just had just slimy reptilian creature-esque things that kind of resembled Demogorgons that you were just like, that okay, you got generic monsters, but anyway.
And that's pretty much it for that movie. It was great, especially like when we first watched it, to have a movie with that much emotion and no talking.
Yes.
Like literally the only talking really is the yelling of dad at the one point, and then at the river when he's actually able to talk.
At the river, and then also at when they're underneath in the bunker. When after Emily Blunt gives birth, and she's like, "You need to go save our kids."
Yeah, but there's very few talking.
It's like
all.
23 lines of dialogue, I think.
Yeah,
is what it is. Where you have a movie that has like fucking like 400 lines of dialogue, so it's very minuscule.
But they got all the emotion you needed without talking.
Yep.
In this, it's honestly, I would say perfectly paced.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it doesn't feel too long. It doesn't feel, it almost feels a little too short just because you're so invested in the movie.
Yeah.
But it's not like too short. Straight to the point, basically. But when we walked out of that movie, there was a few things that we were wondering, which is like, where did they come from?
Yeah.
And just the backstory of everything. And that's what Quiet Place 2 gives you a little bit more of.
Yeah. I will say that the first Quiet Place is, like Brad said, is pretty well paced, and it's a very simple movie if you really like look at it. It's very simple and it's very smart. And yeah. I've always liked smart TV shows or smart movies where like they took time and actually thought it out, of like, even with something so small as like playing Monopoly. How would you play Monopoly, but you have to make it quiet? Oh, they use felt little like characters, and they roll the dice, not on the board, but on a carpet piece and stuff like that. Like, it's smart thinking. And again, like soundproofing a baby basket and having oxygen. Like, it's smart thinking. Like, you're having a child, which I gotta say is probably the most irresponsible thing in this movie between John Krasinski and Emily Blunt. That is the one thing that I'm like,
see, and I don't see it that way.
Like, I get you lost a child, but you know that there are monsters in, like, and
but
I get
they were already pregnant when they lost the child.
Were they?
Yep, because when you look at it, it starts day 472 is when he dies. Day 473 is when all the other events happen, and it starts off in the next movie day 474. It's
right.
Literally 2 days worth of stuff.
Right.
They were already pregnant when he died.
When the kid died?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No, I thought
No,
it,
because it starts off saying day 472, and that's when they're leaving the pharmacy.
I thought it was like day 127 or something like that.
No.
Like, oh. Anyway, like, anyway, so,
But even so, even if it was, you have to, like, the human race has to survive.
no, and I get that, but so far, like even on the board, right? He has a whiteboard going weaknesses question mark question mark question mark. Why bring in a child to the world when you know that? I mean, what is super loud? A fucking baby crying. That is fucking ear shattering loud for these creatures. Like, so for me, I whatever. Like, I get movie has to movie is just one of those things I was like, really, you guys are boning to get another child in because you lost another one, whatever. But it's a smart movie, and that's the point I'm trying to make. Is it's a very smart, well thought through movie of things like that, like Emily Blunt taking a kitchen timer and setting a timer and putting it somewhere else so she could run back upstairs and stuff. So it's a very smart movie, and it goes. In the second one, it continues with that, and that's what I
Yes.
appreciate about it.
I would say a lot less, though.
It
It
definitely
is
a lot less.
Not as smart as the first one.
Definitely a lot less.
Which is why I would say this movie is not like my favorite movie of this year. Because if this followed the same exact path, basically, as Quiet Place 1 in the smart aspect of that first movie, it easily would have overtaken it.
So
Easily would have overtaken it.
So I will say that there were a lot of characters not doing smart things, but there was a lot of instances of smart things happening. Like what was cool? So the first one you saw John Krasinski's family, which I also want to bring up. I don't remember them ever saying a name for any of the characters in the first movie. And this movie they actually like named the characters. Now then again, I didn't watch the credits recently for the first one to see if there was names for him, but it was nice to have like Emily Blunt go Lee or whatever, you know.
The other thing is they didn't really need it when you're only focusing on literally one family.
Yeah, signing. But what was cool was so in the first movie you saw John Krasinski's family, like how they were surviving. Like you saw jars of not pickled, but like they're preserved so they can eat it later. They're on a farm. They're growing corn. You saw that, and then in part 2, you saw a different person and how he was able to survive.
You saw a few different, actually.
Yeah, you did see a few different, but I'm mainly talking about the main male character, Cillian Murphy, and how he was surviving, which was, again, here's a smart moment of it was like a furnace hatch, would you say?
Yeah, something like that.
And he would close the latch, but he kept a white scarf so it wouldn't close, but it will also close silently.
Yeah.
And then he also had a watch that he would set a timer to open up the hatch periodically because you were obviously losing air. So it's moments like that where there was smart moments, but not smart character moments. Like, fuck off, dog.
Wow, that's gonna get you done by PETA.
It was off camera. You didn't see it. But for example, the little boy, Marcus, I believe is what they called him. Marcus had several moments of just stupidity. And it, you even leaned towards me and was like, I hope this kid dies in this movie.
Yeah, I wanted him to die. He caused so much issues in this movie.
One of them was not his fault. And that was probably the most like the gruesome moment that the entire theater was like, oh God. Like it reminds me of kind of like how the theater winces when we went and saw Brightburn and the shard of glass in that lady's eye.
Yeah.
And pulling out, we were just like, oh, stop it. Gross. It was they were running, they made noise and a creature was coming, so they were running through this train yard field, and I'm guessing
there's a bear trap.
Yeah, there's a bear trap, and the kid steps in it, and Oh my god, everyone in the theater was like, "Oh, no." Um but it's again that amazing acting of that kid fucking sold it for me that he was in pain, because there was just like I will say the kid, you could tell that he aged. Like, this movie is obviously like 3 years apart from each
Yeah.
other,
But it's supposed to only be a day.
but it's supposed to be a day. You could tell he kind of aged, and it was hitting puberty a little bit compared to the other movie, where the girl really, I didn't really see anything, but then again, she also didn't talk that much. But like, he was shrieking in pain, and I was like, fuck that. Oh god, that's horrible. But yeah, so anyway. So, do you want to talk about what you liked and didn't like about this movie and stuff?
So I think my biggest problem with this movie is there was a lot more dumb decisions.
Mm-hmm.
A lot more dumb decisions. Along with a lot more, like, with those decisions were based on bad premises. So some of my bigger complaints were the lack of use of other types of noise to distract the creatures. So in the first one, you had that a lot. You had the rockets going off. You had her setting a timer so it would go to another area.
Mm-hmm.
It happened a lot because they understood like how the creature like works and stuff like that. I guess some of it can be semi like okay because they're kids and they should like maybe just don't understand as much. Emily Blunt's character, once again though, is the smartest one in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she understands this. She's able to basically kind of like take one out or distract it enough that she can get to her son by using other forms of noise to get back. But all the other people have no concept of using extra noise to stop the creatures or whatever. The only other one that countered that was the other guy in this movie on the dock.
Cillian Murphy.
Yeah. He's the only one that was able to do it. And he did it, honestly, just to kill.
So the moment Brad's talking about is basically Cillian Murphy and the deaf girl. I don't think we got a name for her.
I think it's supposed to be Evelyn.
Evelyn?
No, Evelyn's the mom, because that was Emily Blunt's character.
I thought that was Emma. Anyway. So the deaf girl and Cillian Murphy's character, she concocted a plan to basically go to a radio tower to take her
hearing aid
and slap it onto the microphone and broadcast her frequency to kill the monsters, basically. And Cillian Murphy was like, "No, we got to go back." But then he was like, "All right, you talked me into it, even though you don't talk, but we're understanding each other, whatever." And so they leave, and he's like, "I found a boat. Let's go." And so they go to the boat dock, and he's unhooking the boat, and then all of a sudden, you just see in the background a shadow run by, and he's just like, "What's that? There's not supposed to be people around." And so he goes, investigates, and sees a little girl, walks up to the little girl, and this was another dumb moment. I'm sorry, but if you're on a mission, get on the fucking boat.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
I would not have gone after this little girl.
Yeah. So the little girl is like, she's looking down, and he puts the gun down, and he's like, "Hey."
He puts his arms out like, "Come here."
Yeah, like, "You're okay." And she looks up and then puts a rope around his neck and then runs away. And the rope is attached to basically a
bunch
fishing
of glass
net.
jars.
Yeah, a fishing net full of junk that is making noise. And then all of a sudden, these fish dock people are coming out of nowhere with lanterns, and they're trying to take the girl away. And he signifies like, "Hey, dive." And so she dives into the water. He runs up making noise, which attracts two of the monsters.
Yeah.
He grabs the guy and is like walking him back, and then
He wraps the
cord
fish
around
fish net around him.
and a pole.
Yeah.
And then dives into the water.
After stabbing him, so he yells.
Yeah. He's
Yeah.
like, "Ah."
So those are like two good points of using like extra noise. And then the third last one was a car honking and driving away.
Yeah.
To save a bunch of other people. But that's about it. Instead, we had a lot of it comes down to this stupid kid where he leaves what he's supposed to be doing so he could just go investigate for a little bit.
Yeah, I was a little bit confused on that because so the deaf girl and Cillian Murphy's character,
they're on their mission.
Emily Blunt has to go out. Like she has no choice. She has to go back to that pharmacy from the first one to pick up medication for her son.
Yep. New bandages for him.
And new bandages because of his bear-trapped leg.
And oxygen tanks for the baby.
And so she has to do that. And she's like, son, Marcus, stay here. Take care of the baby.
You're safe. You know exactly what to do. Just stay here.
Yeah.
Just he cannot listen. There's at one point, it's like he looks off to see something like that's sitting on the table or whatever, and it distracts him. And then he's just like, I know what I need to do. Put the baby in the basket thing and then just go. Like, what are you doing?
I think he saw the radio and he was like, oh, yeah, my sister's out there. And he's like, because his sister was like, hey, keep listening to the radio. I'm going to, like, you'll hear when this thing goes off, my plan.
I have no idea.
But yeah, so he leaves. It's a underground facility that they're at. And he climbs up the ladder, opens up a hatch, closes the hatch, and then walks upstairs. And
it's basically just the like a sniper's hideout, basically.
Yeah.
Of Cillian Murphy's character.
Right.
And then he's just looking at pictures, and then he opens up this thing and sees his dead wife. That's it. Freaks out and makes a shit ton of noise.
Yeah, but this is where I'm confused of what was his plan, because he went up there with binoculars.
I have no idea. This is where I'm so confused at what the kid was doing.
Like, it was definitely, I will say it was probably the most shoddy writing in this movie of, we just need to make something happen to get a monster here.
Yeah.
So it was definitely like, those were the moments that we were like, God, this was not a smart move.
No, it was not a smart move. The other one that bugs me is the fact that the daughter went off by herself.
Yep.
Because the kid's like, I'm going to tell mom, and mom won't let you go. Which, I'm sorry, but if I was in that situation and this kid has kind of basically figured something out, you have the way to kind of hurt them, I would have been like, yeah, all right. No, we'll go. You literally just need to give me like 5 days to help your freaking brother heal.
Yeah.
And then I would have done it. Like, but they're convinced the mom wouldn't have gone.
Yeah.
So she goes off by herself, which is the dumbest move. You're deaf. You can't hear these creatures. And then she goes off. She makes a shit ton of noise in a boxcar, basically. And then she sees a creature, which good, because if she didn't, she would have been dead. And then she fights off another one of these. But it's a dumb decision for her to go off on her own, because with being deaf, you cannot tell if something's coming behind you. You also don't know how much noise you're making walking. I don't understand why somebody would go off like this.
Yeah. The one thing
or why your mom wouldn't like agree with you.
Yeah.
Like,
so,
under this circumstances, your mom would agree with you.
Yeah. Especially since like your mom saw that they have a weakness. I actually liked in the first one that it was like a wham bam combo kind of attack where the daughter, put the earpiece to the microphone and the mom took the shotgun and shot the creature's brains out. Like, it was a wham bam combo. But then the deaf girl leaves by herself to just be the bam combo, and I guess the wham combo.
Yeah, the wham, no bam.
Because, and this is another thing of like, it was a dumb move, was she has to put the earpiece up to the boombox, which by the way, so boombox kind of confused me. So it was just an amp speaker.
Yeah, it was basically an amplifier.
But there was a moment where she cut the cord off of it, and I'm guessing that's for the cord for the outlet. And then she just plugged the headphones,
and it works. Yeah.
And it works, and it was just kind of like you're just going to have to believe it moment. And I was like, all right, I guess I'll just have to believe it. But so she presses the thing to the microphone, And she doesn't have the forethought of like getting, I don't know, like a rubber band or tape to, tape it up.
So then she's got to try to hold the gun with one hand
Yes.
and do this with the other, which is not good. And she's trying to balance it on her knee and shoots it and
misses.
grazes.
Well, yeah,
she
grazes.
grazes
That's
it,
right.
basically.
And she's trying to pump the shotgun with one hand, and it gets caught.
Yeah.
And
She basically gives up.
she's like, oh no, and she's like, come on, work more, come on. And then
She gets saved.
Cillian Murphy gets saved, and that was a lot of moment of like, all right, yeah, of course that happens.
So that's probably my biggest issue with this, though, is just a bunch of dumb decisions and less use of what you already know their weakness is.
Yep.
That is my biggest issue with this.
We did learn a new weakness, kind of a weakness, more of a fault, is they can't swim.
Yeah.
Which leads me to probably my least favorite moment. It was my head shaking during this moment. And there was a moment I looked at you and I was just like, motherfucker. And I started laughing because I knew what was going to happen. So where Cillian Murphy and the deaf girl needs to go is an island, because they can't swim, that has a radio tower there to then broadcast the system. And you find out from one of the people there that they've made, or they have houses and such, that there was at one point 12 not National Guard boats. Was it National Guard?
Well, they said the National Guard basically, he tells a story of once they found out they can't swim, the National Guard started telling people to get onto boats and just to go out to sea, basically.
Yeah.
And so there was 12 boats that were stationed there, but because, it's a pandemic basically, and everybody's like trying to get onto there, people are freaking out, they start screaming, the monsters come, destroy all but 2 boats.
Yeah. So yeah, they have to go to this island, and when they're at the fishing dock to find a boat, they're on a boat and they're starting to go off to sea. But there's a moment where one of the creatures falls into the water and is like splashing around because it can't swim, and then another monster's on top of that same boat, and it starts to drift off. And then there's a moment where Cillian Murphy has a sweet moment with the deaf girl, saying like, hey, you're just like your father, heroic, whatever, smart, whatever. And he goes off and he's looking at a picture of his family or whatever. And then he hears a noise. And this is where I started laughing, because I was like, fucking of course, it's going to be that monster on a boat.
Yeah, on that same boat.
And so he goes around the corner, sees the boat that is like carved up from the monster's claws, and then he's like, oh, the boat's here. And this is where I'm like, okay, a little bit disbelief. A, the boat got there. B, it looked like it got docked. It looked like the creature got onto the shore and pulled the boat in and then wrapped it around like it got docked.
See, that's not how I saw it. It was basically in a cove, but it was in a bad area, basically.
Yeah.
Where it was backed up to like a broken bridge type of a
Yeah,
thing.
it wasn't a cove.
It is a weird placement.
Yeah.
I will give you that, but I didn't see it as basically being docked. But it is a very weird placement.
I would say it was more just in my head. I thought it was docked. Like, I thought it would be funny to see a monster just like pulling it in and then, wrapping it around. But yeah, so that's where I was like, in all of the sea, several things had to happen, right? It literally had to just get drifted off and make its way pretty much beeline to this island.
I mean, it drifted in less than a day straight to the island that they went. It is a little bit more of a disbelief kind of thing.
It really, but it was again one of those moments where the movie has to movie.
Yeah.
And you just kind of have to believe it to get past it. Again, with like the amplifier, cutting the cord and suddenly it works, whatever. But yeah. So I really enjoyed this movie. I definitely like the first one better.
Way better, yeah.
But this one, I think it did a nice job at giving backstory, and but not having. I'm glad that it didn't cut back and forth between like day 112 and then going back to day 400, whatever.
Yeah.
The movie starts off with basically day one. This is what happened, and I liked it. I thought it was very nice, and there was a lot of like still building moments for characters.
They also still left stuff in mystery. I like the fact that they didn't
Yes.
just like flat out explain everything. Like this is exactly where they came from.
Yes.
There is still some mystery in it.
I will also say the attention to detail in this movie was outstanding.
Yes.
It was, and there was a lot of like, not foreshadowing, but kind of like a throwback where John Krasinski goes to the pharmacy where the first movie starts off, and he's picking out oranges and apples and a case of water, and he walks past this thing, and it shows the
toy that killed his son.
yeah, the toy that killed his son. And I was like, ooh, like I looked up and I was like, ooh. But there was also moments where I will say I'm glad that I watched the first one again recently, because you could tell that they went back and watched it to pick up on details. For example, when in the first movie, when the deaf girl was at her youngest brother's memorial placement, she had her backpack and she opened it and put the toy that killed the kid there, right? And then when it cuts to when the fireworks were going off, she just books it. She leaves her backpack there. Then when the mom in the second movie is walking towards the pharmacy, she obviously stops at the memorial where the kid died, and you see the backpack. And I was like, that's a great detail. I really liked that. But also in this movie, it wasn't explained, but it was like you could kind of infer to it. One of them being in the first movie, the mom kind of seems to have like I felt like a medical background, looking at the medication and seeing like it says like omnipotent or whatever, right? Like medical names for drugs. And she's like, yeah, I need that one. I need that one. I don't need that one. Right. And so it kind of made me think that she had somewhat of knowledge of a medical field, like a nurse or a doctor or whatever, or maybe even like a vet. And then in the first one, John Krasinski was very like tech savvy, trying to fix stuff, reading books, and was more of a survivalist. I don't know about you, but of what I picked up in the second movie on day one, I feel like he is either like ex-military or military on leave, or he's a police officer, is kind of what I got the feeling of. My only evidence that I have would be when he's at his kid's baseball game, he takes out a knife that looks military issue, and he's cutting an orange. And I was like, okay, usually military people will have a knife on them. And then when he's with his daughter and getting in his truck, a cop pulls up and he gets out like obviously he knows the cop because it's a small town, but it's almost like he's like, what's the situation? What are we doing to fix it? And it's almost like he's addressing him as like chief of police or as a cop. So that's kind of where I got it, but it was never specified. And I kind of like that you could kind of be like, is he this? Is he that? Is she that? What are they?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, the detail in this movie was great. I'm trying to think of what else. Emily Blunt was awesome. She was probably the smartest one.
Easily, bar none.
There was a moment where so I will say I didn't like the pacing in this as much, but I think it was needed. Like the pacing in the first one was great. The pacing in this kind of it definitely went down a few degrees for me in pacing. But it ramped back up at a certain point where they have three different stories happening at the same time. Cillian Murphy and the deaf girl going on her thing, and they all built to a moment. But they they really set the stage to kind of have that like that eerie feeling, like anxiety feeling, like this fucking sucks. And it's the environment and the music and the just the setting alone is just like, oh god, it's nerve-wracking. Like I was wrecked. And one of those moments was when Emily Blunt's character left to go get the oxygen tanks and stuff, and the brother was holding the baby, and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go do something stupid," and he puts the baby in the cradle and puts the mask on and covers it, and he turns on the oxygen tank, and you see the meter of the oxygen tank like getting so close to empty, and I'm just like, please don't kill this baby.
You mean the point that we looked at each other and went, really? Dumb kid's gonna do the dumb thing.
Yep. And then later, after he made a bunch of noise and drew a monster close to him, and he went into the like furnace hatch lock thing, and he didn't put the white cloth to stop it.
So then he locked himself in.
He locked himself in, and then he was like passing off oxygen to him and his baby brother. Yeah. So yeah, it was. There was a moment that I did like of that, which was he was in the thing and he was kind of like starting to pass out from a lack of oxygen, and you could see that the lighter in his hand started to dim and it went black, telling you there was no oxygen in it, because for fire you need oxygen. So John Krasinski was awesome in this still.
For the 3 seconds he was in it.
Yeah. I loved it. there was a moment that it really made me laugh where John Krasinski and his daughter like made it to this like hotel inn thing on Main Street, and there's a bunch of people in there and they're all being quiet, and you see the old man who ran the store starting to like pray.
Yeah, he's praying.
And you just see off camera, you just see John Krasinski move his hand over his mouth and like just be like, shh, be quiet. I thought that was really funny. But then you have some fucker with a cell phone just and the monster's like freaking out and tearing shit up. But yeah.
Yep.
I will say I hope they don't make a third one.
I'm right there with you. I was all for the second one, which I'm glad we saw it. I still think it's a good movie.
Yeah.
It's just not as smart as the first one. That's all it is. It's just not as smart as the first one. It is still really good. It still shows like survivability of like human and human nature.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the best part about Quiet Place, is just showing human nature. It's best and it's worst.
It's a good standalone movie, but it's also a good sequel to a great first movie.
Yeah.
It's just not as good as the first one.
But I don't want a third one because I feel like just the way it's going, it's just going to be like, it's gearing up to be a generic, just like, we've found the cure basically, and now let's administer it. Like,
yeah.
And it's not going to be as good. It's not going to be as smart of a movie. It's just going to be more like, hey, we've moved it from this suspense thriller to an action movie. Like
action horror
That's
movie.
the way that you're kind of moving with it, and I would rather not see that. I would rather it be left at these two movies.
I will also say, between the first one and the second one, this one had a lot more jump scares.
Yep.
And I didn't like them. I didn't like them as much as the first one. First one, what, like 3 jump scares really? The raccoons and like 2 other whatever. Yeah. This one, it seemed like every 20 minutes there was a new jump scare. This was another moment that kind of like pissed me off, was when she was in the train car and she opened up the door, but there's obviously something like jammed in. You could tell in the shot that she could slip through.
Yeah.
But she, of course, isn't, and she's like,
just barely trying to reach for something.
Yeah, and she grabs the first aid kit, and she's pulling it back, and then, oh, hey, the train conductor that was in there falls back and lands on her, and then it's a jump scare, and I was just like, I didn't like it. And even before that, there was the birds in the train car that just decided to fly out after she entered. So there was a lot more jump scares that I did not like as much. It definitely seemed like they doubled down on it. hey, instead of 3 here every so often, let's do it every 20 minutes. Why not?
Yeah.
So,
It's not surprising though, because I would say that the tone of the movie changed in this.
Yes.
It was not.
a
It was
fam-
not that
family
that
friendly.
basically that single family just trying to survive type of a movie, suspense thriller. Instead, this was more of just showing human nature.
Yeah.
And so it did have a different kind of vibe to it, which I'm fine with. It's a different type of movie.
Mhm.
But that's where I don't want the third to be another different type of movie. I'd
Yeah.
rather they just leave it here.
Yeah.
But I am actually okay with most of like the jump scares and that. Like I'm not a huge jump scare kind of guy, but I feel like it's okay because the tone in the movie was completely different.
Yeah.
It was not the same as the first one.
Some YouTube videos I've seen when they review like video games and there's jump scares in video games. This guy just goes star wipe and it just just cuts to the next scene because he's just like, whatever, like I hate your jump scares, so star wipe. And this is anytime there was a jump scare, I was just thinking in my head, star wipe. Let's move on. What was I gonna say?
Apparently wasn't that important.
I mean, it was a little bit,
Apparently not.
kind of, sort of.
So what's your overall thought then?
Like I said, I liked it. It sucks that it got delayed so many times because of everything. Because we were about to see this movie right when the pandemic
Yep.
closed stuff. Like I think we talked about like, hey, Friday we're gonna go see this movie, and you were like, yeah, okay. And then they were like, movie theaters are closed, and we were like, fuck. And so I hated that we had to wait so long, but I'm glad that it's finally out, and it was still really good. I've really enjoyed it. I like the first one a lot more. To the extent where I would say the first one is probably like an 8 for me, and this one's probably about a 7.5. So it's still a very good movie. I was still entertained, but yeah, there was a lot more things to that were kind of, you had to overlook it, and there was no other way about it. Where the first one was like, yeah, okay, there's rockets. That's a smart decision. Where in this one it was like, hey, I'm gonna take binoculars up to the second story window and then not use them because I need a monster here for the rest of the story.
Exactly. Dumb kid should have died.
Yep. So, but yeah, I liked it. I liked the ending. I don't want a third one, but they kind of, I feel like they leave it to a third one. But I'm all right with this just ending how it is. I don't need a part 3 because, like Brad said, it's going to be more of a hey, we found a way to harm the monsters. Now it's hunting season.
Yeah, we're taking the fight to them.
Yeah, and I don't need that. Even though Emily Blunt's a badass and the little girl's a badass, I don't need it.
Yeah. Although, if they are going to make a third one,
The kid dies.
for the love of God, can it be outlawed for anybody to bring in anything that crunches and eats or moving and just talking in general? Like, that was my absolute worst part about this movie, especially like the first movie. Like you said, it was so quiet, but since it wasn't so well known when we went and first saw it, there's literally like 3 of us in the theater. And so it was just silent, and it made for a better like suspense and stuff. There were multiple points in this movie where there was supposed to be suspense in that, but you constantly heard people moving their seat up and down or eating popcorn or talking or whatever else. And I'm just like, God damn it. Just leave the theater.
Yeah.
Leave the theater. Like, I'm way more willing to like accept that during like an end game situation or anything where you're going to have laughing and talking. It's not as big of an issue. Not this type of movie. Oh, it pissed me off.
Yeah.
It pissed me off.
Like, you were fine with the whole like going, oh, like when he got in the bear trap, but yeah, there was a lot more of like a oh no, look what's happening. And it's like, I don't need that in my movie right now. And of course, at the end, people started clapping. I just look at Brad, and he's just like, "I fucking hate you. I hate you. Everything's bullshit."
Oh yeah. Number one complaint: don't freaking clap at movies.
Like when I watch a movie, I get very excited because I enjoy movies, and I like if there's an awesome moment that happens, like I lift up my fist and I go fuck yeah, like I'm just excited and I get pumped. But I also don't go yeah fuck go get him. Like I don't shout in movies. I gesture in silently.
Yeah.
So yeah. God, there's so much to talk about. So what did you think?
I mean, I'm kind of right there with you at about a 7.5. Although I would rank the first movie even higher. I would say to me it's closer to an 8.5, 9. Just because of the pacing and everything. This movie, though, I still feel it's good. It's just a different direction.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with that for the most part. But there were just a few too many dumb moments that kind of took me out of it compared to the first one, especially with everything that they had to go through in the first one. I feel like some of those characters should have been smarter than the way they were just flat out acting in the second one. Albeit, for the most part, it was still brilliantly done.
Yes.
I still also like the fact that there is still a lot less talking. Now, there were more talking in this movie than there was in the first one, but there's still a lot less talking, so you have to deal with like emotion in a different way.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's average people and not like the military coming in, solutions are a bit different too. And I like just the way that they're finding out different solutions to do certain different things. So in general, I do really like it. It is probably about a 7.5. But because it's just not as well paced and some dumber decisions, it is what drops it down for me.
Yep. Same. I will also say that fuck, I just lost it in my head again.
Apparently it's not important. I'm telling you.
You said something that made me laugh and I can't remember it. So this is John Krasinski's like second written and directed film, and I like him as a director. I'm excited to see what else he does, and I really hope that he becomes Mr. Fantastic and Emily Blunt becomes Invisible Woman and Danny DeVito becomes the Thing.
No.
Mole Man. But I'm excited. I will say I love Emily Blunt and John Krasinski is one of my favorite celebrity couples. That and like Dax Shepard and Kristen Bell. I was never a Brangelina. But
I'm already done with this conversation.
But I remember an interview that John Krasinski did for the first movie, and I think I've told you this before, Brad. But it was when she was giving birth in the bathtub. And he was like, yeah, it's really weird directing your wife to just be like, hey, be more in pain while you're giving childbirth. And I think she's like, we've had 2 kids together. I think I know how to do this. like I love the dynamic. And I love that in a way, John Krasinski, with how the first one went with him dying in it, he was able to just be like, you know what, honey, take the front seat on this. You're going to be a badass because you are a badass. And second movie comes around, still badass. So I'm glad that they didn't dumb it down. There was a moment where after the kid got bear trapped and stuff, and the deaf girl leaves, she asks Cillian Murphy, hey, go get her, go save her. And in a moment, I had a moment where I was like, God damn it. They kind of did this thing where it's like, you need a man to save, the world or whatever. But it was actually more of a logical reasoning. Was she has a new baby that she needs to take care of, and she has a son that just got bear trapped. And so in my head, I was like, you know what? Never mind. That was a smart decision. She had to make that decision.
See, this is the media influence on you, that you even had that thought, because that didn't even cross my mind.
Yeah, of course it didn't cross your mind because you're a chauvinist pig. I'm sorry. I don't know where that came from. I'm sorry. I blacked out for a little bit. But no, it was just a moment of like, it wasn't even more of a moment of like, of like, oh, gotta keep the woman down. It wasn't like that. It was more of like,
It sounds like that's how you thought it.
maybe I'm not saying it the right way, but it was more of like, hey, we have Cillian Murphy here. He's a new character. We need to do a new character thing with him, more like it. But it was just a moment of like, well, why don't you just go for it? You're a badass. You got the wham bam combo. But then again, like I said, I thought about it a little bit more instead of just the gut reaction. So
It's all right. You're wrong. It's okay. At least you figured it out.
yeah, it took me like 2 seconds, but I figured it out. But yeah. So like this movie, first one's better.
It usually is, though. It usually is.
For me, I usually like the second movies actually. Just in general, it's always been like I like the second Star Wars or Episode 5
The
over
fifth one?
Episode 4.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Well, at the time it was the second one, Brad.
Yeah, I know. Jackass.
Okay, well maybe I like the fifth movies better. Hello, Endgame.
I mean,
But-
it's way more than fifth.
But shut up. I've also liked Temple of Doom more than the other ones, but that's for a different reason. I've always I like the first one. The third one's my least favorite, but for some reason I've always just liked to watch the second one, even though I love the first one. But anyway, Indiana Jones. Make another one, but not have it be shit. Actually, don't.
No, because it's going to be shit.
It's gonna be shit.
I'm just saying, in general, usually the first movie's the best.
Right. And in general, the second one is probably the worst of a trilogy because they always leave it open-ended. But
Yeah.
I usually pull towards the second one actually. Hell, even the screenplay I wrote, the second one of my trilogy, I like the second one the most. But that's okay. You haven't read them, so Brad, where should they buy our merchandise like that?
Teespring.com.
And not like that?
Yeah.
Somewhere else. That's the correct answer.
Like I just
And
said.
what?
Teespring.com.
Go follow us on YouTube. At Best Friends Discuss. Go follow us on Facebook. At Best Friends Discuss. Go do the things. Movie review. What should we do? Another movie review? Should
Well,
we do
I'm going
F9?
to. I'm just going to do one without you, though.
No.
Yeah.
No, you need me.
No.
You need this charm that I
Nah, I'm
have.
just going to bring Scott in.
How fucking dare you?
Honestly, I'll just bring my sister in for F9.
Because she's a fan, right?
Oh, yeah. Me and her have constantly gone to, like, every Fast and the Furious movie. It's great. I saw posts that were just like, it's so sad that, like, Fast and the Furious is a better franchise than, like, the DCEU. And I'm like, yeah, because it's 100 times better, and it doesn't take itself so goddamn seriously. Like, Fast and Furious knows what the hell it is, which is just ridiculous, and it's just like, let's write it. We don't give a shit. Just keep going. Like, who cares?
How do you think Han's gonna come back?
Oh.
Clone, robot, just a superhuman.
Honestly, I'm feeling some Nick Fury action here, and he went down the fucking manhole like right below him. So- I can't wait for the 10th one where they bring Gal Gadot back.
I can't wait for the 10th one where they bring Paul Walker back. Ooh, too soon. Yeah. Can we do a podcast with your sister reviewing F9?
Oh, we'll see.
Okay.
We'll see if we can get
That might be something to talk her into.
Yeah, it's great because we've gone to every single one of them.
Are you planning on going with her?
I figured, both of us, and we'll go with Scott and my sister.
Done deal. I'm so excited for F9.
Yeah.
Like, what was fun about watching F9 many times, like in theaters. So the first trailer came out during the Super Bowl 2 years ago, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that.
Dog just shows up.
And
Hi, bud.
and I will say the first trailer, I was like, I'm not excited for it because it looks dumb like how F8 was. But then the more and more we've gone to the theaters, and the more and more that it's like, hey, this is the third trailer or the second trailer. Do you fucking mind? Get out of here, dog. That the more and more we saw different trailers and how it was cut, the more and more we got excited for.
Oh, I'm so pumped for this movie.
And there's times where like I'll look at my brother-in-law, or we'll look at at Nick, and he'll just be shaking his head. He's
an absolutely nope on this one.
He's a fan of the Furious movies, but he has a line, and about
Is it
F8 crossed it a little bit. Where you and I, when we see the trailers, we're just looking at each other and going, I'm excited.
Oh, absolutely.
So
magnets?
Fucking I'm so excited for the magnets. It reminds me of one of my favorite of the Fast and Furious series is Fast 5. And it reminds me of the scene with the bank vault getting dragged down the road. I'm excited for these magnets. What I'm not excited for is the jet catching a car and the car hitting a bridge and getting the rope tangled in the wheel well and it slingshotting.
Yeah.
I'm not excited for that, but I will.
You know what? I can't wait for it because you know what's going to happen. I know exactly what's going to happen, and I can't wait just to like jump up in my seat and just be like, yes, because it's going to do that. They're going to like go like slingshot. He's going to hit Nos mid-air just to make it go even further, and then he's going to land it and still be able to drive that bitch. Like, there's no way that would ever work in real life. That's my prediction for that scene. Is he's still going to be able to drive that car after he lands it after Nos slingshotting himself?
You know what? You know what I want a scene to be is them watching like Dukes of Hazzard and they see the General Lee like taking a ramp and like taking a ramp going midair and then crashing down and still driving, and one of them just goes, "That's so unbelievable." Like I just want them to really poke fun at the franchise of just like how fucking ridiculous this is. I got excited by you just saying Nos slingshot. but yeah, I'm not looking forward to that. Honestly, this would be my favorite movie if one thing happens. This would be my favorite movie. It would top Iron Giant and Die Hard if when he rides into the bridge and gets the rope tangle around the wheel and is in the slingshot motion, because I don't know how he's going to get the rope off, right? I want it to get slingshot, but then it to come back and then just hit the side of the island and just explode, and Vin Diesel dies in the crash. Like, it would be my favorite movie. Not for Vin Diesel to die, but Dom Toretto to die. and even more so, it would be my favorite movie if he just like comes out of the flaming wreck, like kicks the door open, and he's just like, you know what never dies? Family. And he pops open a Corona and drinks it as he's just marching towards John Cena. We should write a Fast and Furious franchise. It might be fun to do.
I will, but with scenes like that, you're not writing it.
Fuck off. Fuck off. That could not happen in a movie. We watched Hobbs and Shaw together. Don't you forget. Where Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is free falling from a skyscraper and tackling a man and then hitting glass. All right, fuck off. That can't be a scene with Dom Toretto. He fucking caught Letty in midair. He catches a car in the F9 trailer. Fuck off with a scene like that. I'm all hot and bothered now.
My stars and garters.
My stars and garters. So, but it would be fun to write a Fast and Furious franchise movie. So, all right. We're going to end this. This was fun. Goodbye, audience. It's taking too long.